right, and with that, welcome to Blerdline News. This is your man Cam. With me is.
It's the professor here to educate and postulate, collaborate, and all the rates.
And we were just talking about JK Rowling and her. She is famously known famous. What do they call it? It's a TERF, and I want to make sure I say the acronym correctly because there's all these acronyms, which is trans, no marry, radical feminist.
There you go. What he said, ladies and gentlemen.
But anyways, so she has been pretty critical of trans women for a long time, blah, 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 which, on social is the thing. People are, up in arms about her and stuff. But anyways, recently you said who was the head chief? Was it for Warner Brothers?
Well, yeah. So recently HBO, because they're getting ready to release, or HBO is working on the Harry Potter TV series that's coming up, right? And so they've been in business, Warner Brothers, with JK Rowling for over 20 years on the various Harry Potter projects, including the successful Hogwarts Legacy video game.
That was very, very fun.
Yeah, very fun game. I'm looking forward to the next one. So it's Casey Bloys who was speaking to orders and at an event on November 12th, who said, and he's the HBO exec, who says, that J.K. Rowling is very, very involved in the process, selecting the writer and the director, and that her anti-trans statements haven't affected the casting or hiring of writers or production staff for the show. And then furthering that, a spokesperson for the network said in a statement to Variety that its parent company has been working with J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter and the Harry Potter business for over 20 years, and her contributions has been invaluable. They furthermore stated, "We are proud to once again tell the story of Harry Potter, the heartwarming books that speak to the power of friendship, resolve, and acceptance." And the statement continues saying, "J.K. Rowling has the right to express her personal views. We will remain focused on the development of the new series, which will only benefit from her involvement." And so,
Yeah.
That wasn't a direct statement from Casey Bloys. That was a statement from HBO, from basically Warner Brothers and HBO and those who are going to be working on these upcoming J.K. Rowling IPs, this Harry Potter show in particular.
Yeah, and it basically comes back down to is if you have we've always been in the weird space where your personal antics could affect your business antics. And so unfortunately, people that have large platforms, and usually it's on Twitter, usually it's on one of these, Instagram or something like that. And when you're at that level where everyone is following you, or people are, you're at there's not that many people that have more than a million, not even a million. There's a very small number of people that have over 10,000 followers in any platform. So if you have in the millions and the multiple of millions, that's really rare. So someone at her level saying whatever she wants to say will no doubt reverberate for in that social space. And so for her, it's
she's got 14.2 million followers on Twitter.
And so, and you have a whole generation of people that were raised on her literature and all that kind of stuff. But so when she says something that might be contrary to something else of one of her fans, then there's always going to be a quote unquote backlash. But if I'm a business person, I'm like, yo, man, that's your stuff. As long as you're not killing nobody and fondling nobody, you can still do business.
That's what the final measure is coming down to for a lot of these things. And what I would say is the sort of post frenzy cancel era where, even the smallest impropriety or mishap would get individuals quote unquote canceled or have the consumers angry and protesting and wanting to see them go away. Uh, in this situation, and I think putting it in context, JK Rowling was not calling for any uh, anti-trans violence or anything that suggests that transgender individuals don't have the right to exist or to uh to exist. And so, and her argument was a little bit more nuanced in terms of thinking about it from the perspective of women's rights and that experience.
Yeah. And if you agree with that or not,
There's a nuance.
yeah, that's the nuance of it. And I think if you agree with it or not is, your own prerogative. But like you said, it's it unfortunately it's one of those things that's an itch that she just keeps scratching. Like whatever it is that it triggers her, that's her thing that she just really disagrees with it. She talks about it all the time. It's really interesting. I'm not even sure why she again just kind of reminds people that Twitter is not good for you.
Well, I also think is a lot of these individuals who have these platforms don't ask themselves a simple question, which is, if you're being asked or you have to on occasion make a statement about something, it is your freedom to do so. It's your right to do so. And you have the right to your opinion, and nobody should attack you for it unless it's something that is calling for violence against others or discrimination of any sort. But you ask yourself, or just say, my opinion really doesn't matter on it one way or the other. So why would so why comment on it? And that's it. J.K. Rowling is an author of fantasy books. It should end at that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think in her opinion is, important to some, but for the large part, she's not writing policy. She's not uh, um, writing laws or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the part that sucks because our entertainment fueled society always wants to go. What's the latest take from, like a old Dave Chappelle
Favorite one.
Yeah. Let's go to Ja Rule for some political analysis.
Yeah, after he said, but you know what? The reason it was incredibly hilarious is because it was true. This during the 9/11 attacks. After the 9/11 attacks, immediately after, where all these various media outlets, and I think this was 106 in Park or something like that, one of the music video programs, like, let's go to Ja Rule, let's get his say Dave Chappelle, I don't care what Ja Rule thinks, I'm scared. So you think I'm having a crisis in my life and I'm sitting somewhere in the corner thinking, oh man, I need to find Ja Rule. I need to make sense of this thing. Where's Ja?
Yep, exactly. And I think that's the thing where at the end of the day, it just is ridiculous, but it's also like, unfortunately, that's how folks, like they always wonder like, oh, what does my favorite celebrity or personality think of this one issue where the smarter ones, you don't know what they're, some people you don't know their politics, some people you don't know their stances on stuff, and that's completely okay and probably for the best.
I was just gonna say, so for some people, you would probably just rather not know because you don't want to taint the experience for which you associate them with or you have engagement with them, which is, and I was saying this to a friend, when I watch, for example, when I watch wrestling, I see these characters and meet people on screen. When I turn the screen off, they no longer exist to me. I know they are real people who live somewhere, who have families and all that stuff, and I feel for that. But I'm not worried or obsessed with what they think or what they feel is best for themselves, because what's good for the goose is not always good for the gander, as they say. So, you know, it's this training to view mainstream media and pop culture as if it is on par with the more intellectual aspects of our civilization and society, and it's just not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the part that's like, it's one of those things where, like you said, sometimes you don't need to know what someone thinks about something. And then, like, for me personally, like, I could watch Harry Potter and be fine. I don't care about what JK Rowling cares about anything, honestly.
I mean, you've never met JK Rowling or spoken to her, had occasion to know what she might really feel other than these several characters she's written on social media. So, it's really a false premise to even believe that you know these individuals that they care about what you think. It's
And I think,
they just have a
right.
privilege of us knowing them, and they don't know us.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that's the unfortunate part, is that people have this false sense of knowing of a celebrity or writer for that reason, right? They automatically assume they know this person because they've consumed their artwork or they've consumed their creativity or their content.
And they look at an interview of them speaking and things like that, and they're a big fan. It's like, yes, all that might be true, but in reality,
Yeah, in reality, not so much. And I think you're right. That is the problem, where it's like, if it's almost like a fan problem, but it doesn't let the people off the hook. Like, there are people that are generally hurt by her views, and so now it's harder for them to maybe consume whatever creative media. Which, hey, man, if you're like, yo, man, I don't taste brand okay, Rolling is, I understand it too. I'm like, yo, man, you should turn it off or put the book down and keep it moving. I think the part that people mistake is they think that the echo chamber of social media is the whole world. And I think that's the problem, that a lot of folks they misconstrue the two. Um, in other news of mistaken, I should say, not even say false, but exonerated. Our man Jonathan Majors, his suit just got dropped recently. He is now he did got with a misdemeanor. I think that's what it was when he got actually charged. But now
yeah, he was charged with assault, and yeah, I think it was a misdemeanor.
yeah, it's a misdemeanor. And so from that whole debacle, he got he lost he lost some dough, definitely, but also he lost a lot of roles, he lost a lot of endorsements and all that kind of stuff. But now the federal lawsuit has been dropped, and she had accused him of assault and defamation, and so now that whatever they settled with, whatever it is, both parties are like, we're dropping all of it and they're going to move on, which probably better for everybody in this case. Also probably for the young lady as well.
And I'm gonna say, be easy on her, especially because her name is out there, and so
Yeah,
I'm assuming that she's had to deal with her fair share of, again, the cretinous masses who take on these celebrities' issues and problems as their own.
yeah, exactly. So it's like one of those things where, because yeah, he got a misdemeanor, got dropped from a lot of productions. He got lots of
It was
endorsements,
lost a lot of money.
things, off a lot of money, and has more
He
evidence.
was a recent. He's the voice of the Army campaign and their promo
That's
campaign.
right. I forgot about that.
That's big time money. For those of us who know uh, a little bit about VO work and how that works behind the scene of production, that's big time capital costs. Not to mention, he had a multi-picture deal with the MCU.
Yep. And he was like, he's quote unquote that rising star, and then he got dimmed a little bit. I think the other part for me was more just, again, you go back to the social aspect of how quickly people turn on whatever person has the ire of the day, right? And I think what ends up happening is, whether the allegations are right or wrong, people will automatically flip on a dime. And then, say, for instance, when the video came out to see what actually happened, there was one content creator that was like, is anyone going to apologize to this man for dragging him through the street for allegedly doing something that he didn't do? Like, and of course not, because it's a lot easier to to defame somebody with it negatively, but when you're wrong, all you do is be quiet. You don't go back and be like, "Hey, man, I was wrong."
You just shut up about it and don't say anything else because that's inevitably that's going to happen. He'll reemerge. He's already gotten his roles have been kind of most of his career has been restored in terms of his reputation. And he's lucky in that there was a lot of evidence and stuff out there that showed that the complexity of whatever the argument and dispute and fight between he and his ex was. But you're right. It's probably better for both sides that, they settled because I'm sure she's been harassed and called all of the names like and threatened and all of that, which is totally unfair. Again, whether she's telling the truth or making something up or whatever, nobody other than her and Majors really know what really took place. So nobody can really has the right to judge her in that way. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's unfortunate that it all came out. I mean, that as a result he lost all this money and this stuff, but she lost things too, and there's damage done to her as well, likely more permanent than what he's gonna endure because now again on the surface of things, his wife is out there, recently engaged to Megan Good. So it his film that was stalled has now got a theatrical release, and he's got some big projects coming up, and I suspect we will see him in the future in the MCU.
I do too. I actually think as well. I think now that the dusk is finally gonna settle, and also too, like I enjoy him as an actor. I thought he was pretty dope, and then I like on the continued of his rise. I liked how he was handling a lot of the interviews and how the focus of how he was doing a lot of stuff. So when this kind of happened and kind of derailed that whole thing, I was like, "Ooh, boy, this ain't good for you, brother. How you gonna navigate this?" Um, but you're right. I think it'll be interesting to see, and again, it is America, and America loves a comeback story, and they love knocking people off their pedestal. And so this, the pedestal definitely got knocked off. Now let's see if the rise, the comeback story will work too.
Well, we've seen many, and we've seen some be really good. People forget where Robert Downey Jr. was early in his career.
Yeah, he was when he got hired for the Iron Man, he just got out of rehab, I think it was. And I think it was like,
That was literally his first role out of all of that stuff that he had gone through in the mid to late 90s, early all through the 90s, really. But he was still making some films up until the point where he just kind of had to walk away and get himself together. And then after that, he emerged from rehab with the role of Tony Stark. And now again, that speaks to his white male privilege. We can't get around that. And also the fact that his father is a reputable filmmaker.
yep,
Well, from the 60s and 70s. So he's a legacy. So different strokes for different folks. Obviously, I think for Majors, he's lucky that again that there was evidence that helped support what he was saying.
yeah, I think that you're right. If there was no video, man, listen, it would have been,
I think he'd be in a lot more trouble and a lot more. He'd be more exiled longer from Hollywood. His sort of exilement has been short lived, and if you can count it at all. And so again, he's gonna bounce back. Hopefully, his ex girlfriend, Jabari, hopefully she's uh okay at the end of all of this, and they have both learned valuable lessons.
yeah, exactly.
Like, that's all you can hope for him in this situation, because you know without knowing him, and who knows, I don't know what Jonathan Majors is capable of. I'm not going to say that he didn't do anything or that he did, but I'm just going to say hopefully now he's more careful, and hopefully maybe this gives makes Megan Good watch him a little closer.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. Learned his lesson, and now trying to keep your nose clean, brother. Keep your nose clean. And then so now in our last story of Hollywood glut and gluttony, big budget film flops. Imagine that. Red One, which stars The Rock and Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans. Actually, let me take that back. Red One.
Oh yeah, I was saying he is The Rock.
Yeah, so I'll say Red One starring Black Adam and Captain America.
Oh yeah,
Also a former Charlie's Angels and I was gonna say J.K. Simmons is the role in Spider-Man. But yeah, we have a $200+ million movie once again, heavily CG once again, written by a pretty a writer and director that's done a lot of blockbuster stuff. I'm not gonna say good movies. I'm gonna say blockbuster movies. Blockbusters in terms of lines and lines of all these stuff. Yeah. So anyways, and it was financed by Amazon, which we all know Amazon has an ungodly amount of money, and it bombed. It basically, in previews, it says now, let's see. Yep, early previews, it only made about 3.7 million. Now the final tally will be by Monday for the first opening weekend, but it's on track to maybe make about 30 to 35, which is pretty horrible considering it's a $250 million budget movie.
It's I think what is it sitting at? What is it, I think 80 something million or something.
Yep. That's including international too. Yikes.
Yeah, so it's a really, here's the thing, like people complain about there not being any kind of originality in Hollywood, and then here you go with this story. But I didn't ask the question: is this original or is it just a formula where that's been done a lot? Because Santa Claus, and the story of Santa Claus and that aspect of Christmas is not necessarily an original idea or trying to show Santa Claus as in a different capacity. It's been done before in different ways. This was a sort of thing that it probably didn't need the amount of money that was spent on it. And then you have big time stars in it, 2 big time stars who have been a part of turning out blockbuster results in the past. It's dubious of whether or not they are the reason people came, or whether or not the stories or characters they were playing themselves were the attraction. I'm speaking of Chris Evans. I can't vouch that he's a box office dynamo in the same vein as Will Smith back in the day, because quite frankly, I think Captain America was the draw, not Chris Evans. But
now, and he fleshed that part out. You're right. You're 100% correct on that.
Yeah, and so here we are now with the studio, with Amazon Studios, and that should be a slam dunk thing, holiday thing, big stars, CGI action. Scene is not too far to the left of things in terms of violence or whatever. So it still has the appeal of the family, but not too much of a family film because it has the action and all that stuff. But it's just bombed because nobody is interested seemingly in that story. And that if that's what is passing as originality, then we're still back at square one. Because
exactly,
it's either that as originality or sequel 2000 or remake or set in this world or that world or a spin-off of this.
And also too, we've been stuck in we know the nepotism in Hollywood runs wild, but even something even like this where you're like, man, who wrote this? And you're like, oh, okay, Jake Kasdan. Who is that? Oh, he's the son of Lawrence Kasdan. Wait, who's Lawrence Kasdan? Oh, he's the writer and director of all these dope ass films that we've all heard of. Everything from, Silverado, The Big Chill, Accidental Tourist, all this stuff. So you see these things where, and then you look at Jake Kasdan's his directors and writing stuff. Not to say that he's not good. It's just that you see that you start to see the threads where you're like, oh, you guys really do just be passing stuff around to your homies and then keep it moving. And then then it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good thing. It's just like, oh, hey, D'Angelo, you want to direct this Santa Claus movie? Oh, sure, why not? Hey, you want to do this random jungle movie called Jumanji? Yeah, I'll do that to you.
Yeah, and then them is good because for each one, that's a couple $100,000, if not a meal or two. So and then not to mention the residuals because writers always get paid on the back end, uh, because that IP will never stop being used. But
Yeah.
I think that it just speaks to the overall where we are and the weakness of the industry. I'm looking here at the Variety main page, and the weekend preview of box office is Wicked and Gladiator 2. Again, that's all nostalgia stuff. That's stuff that has been around for multiple decades. Gladiator is a almost 30-year sequel.
Don't tell me that. It's been 30 years already. Jesus.
I don't. Was the original Gladiator? I thought it was. No, was it the 90s? No, it was the early 2000s.
No, I think you're right. I think it's the early 2000s.
No, it was 2000. It was 2000. So 24, 25 years. I say that to say that it doesn't surprise me that Red One, like so many other films, have been box office disasters. I don't think it has a lot to do with the content as much as with people not wanting to people not wanting to go see films as much as it is they just decide I'm not going to spend $20 on some crap when I can just wait for it to stream, and if I want to watch it, I'll watch it that way.
Yep, exactly. It makes, like you said, it makes it almost disposable at this point where it's like, I don't really have any desire to see a Gladiator 2. I'll catch it on the plane or something, but this is not, I don't feel like this is like a must see thing, And
Yeah.
and we're getting to a point now where like you'll see something, you'll be like, this looks kind of cool, but maybe it's not as cool. It's the epicness of these movies now aren't there anymore. And I think when it's something
Or they're
new,
over the top.
or they're over the top. And so when small things, kind of going back to say, for instance, Everything Everywhere All at Once, like whether you like the movie or not is almost irrelevant because it was something that was small. It was something that was executed well. And then it made a shit ton of money because the budget was so small. If that movie was at the same budget of a $200 million movie, it probably would not have got the same type of love.
Well, it also wouldn't have been made in the same type of production mode where the focus was more about character development and this science fiction that's not necessarily the sort of Hollywood variety of action and hero versus villain. It's a very nuanced narrative. And yet again, you have the sort of trappings, that bait of having Michelle Michelle Yao performing martial arts, which she's amazing at, and doing these stunts and things like that. So it'll hook people in who are looking for that Hollywood fix in that regard. But it's a totally original film in that it strived to create a story that was unique and idiosyncratic, and also had something to say about mental health and the relationships between immigrant families and their children who are trying to not only maintain their identity, their cultural identities, but also trying to circumnavigate the difficulties of living in the United States as immigrants. If you don't get that with a lot of Hollywood cinema, and that's when, again, that Godzilla Minus One, minimalist in focusing on high themes and grounded narratives, and spent very little money, but made a whole lot of it back, a whole lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's crazy because you want it, again, kind of like what the one of the other writer directors had said, that he was like, yo, instead of making, $100 million film. Why don't you just make $10 million films and give people some chances, have interesting stories and that kind of stuff. And I think the bean counters, as people like to call them, in the studios are just kind of like, let's give them some more schlock.
Yeah. Let's give them Fast and Furious 20. And as much as that sounds like a joke, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to that point, because I guarantee there will be another Fast and the Furious film made within the next 5 to 10 years, just because they can't help themselves. It's sort of the formula of this works. It's likely to churn out a bunch of people to watch. Recently I've been following some of the things that James Gunn has been saying, and it's like every time I read what he says, I'm a little bit more excited about what he's doing with DC. Because someone asked him about the Brave and the Bold, and there's a big deal about that being the first Batman film, live action film, that won't have his name or moniker, any nickname in the title. And then he was saying, there's no script for that film yet. So until there's a script ready for the film, it's just an idea. We're not really focused on it. It's not, we'll get there when it's the right time. And so that kind of reflection suggests to me that he's not trying to rush in it and be reactionary, because that's what destroyed the Zack Snyder leadership. Under the Zack Snyder leadership, that's what destroyed the DCEU. Remember, they did Man of Steel, decent film, good, okay reintroduction to Superman, if not a little too dark, but still decent, not bad, especially considering it's Zack Snyder. But then when they get wind that Marvel is doing Civil War, we gotta do Batman vs Superman.
And to be fair, Gunn is a way better filmmaker than Snyder, but he's also he's also cognizant of what's come before it and being like, oh, okay, before you guys messed up because of these things. Let's not do that. Let's focus on making
stories in the same place. Yeah, he's starting at the exact same place. It's not like he's starting with Wonder Woman or with The Flash or with Martian Manhunter. He's starting with Kal-El, with Superman. DC superhero. I think he's the first comic book superhero, period. The mainstream America. I think, unless you treat like Zorro or people like that, but Zorro was considered a vigilante, not a superhero per se.
Yeah, I think he was the first suit and cape, Titan cape, so they call it.
First Titan superhero.
Yeah.
So no, you're right. It's gonna be exciting.
And I think that's the thing where, as I'm still surprised that Hollywood wants to invest $200 million into a movie every time. And again, this doesn't take away from the staff. It doesn't take care of the crew. There's a bunch of CG artists on there. There was all the production crew and all those things. So it doesn't take away from their jobs. But at the same time, it's also like, all right, instead of this big, huge mess that, again, it's employing people, which is great. But at the same time, Hollywood has slowed down tremendously. And there's a rejiggering that's happening currently to see what's the next trend or how's everything going to roll. And so that's also affecting the down ballot, but the all the jobs that are under the big action stars and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Again, I hope Hollywood looks at this and Wicked's going to probably do well and Gladiator's going to be solid. But I think we're slowly getting to a place where they're like, okay, let's start to do whatever exec is like, hey, we're only going to do $10 to $20 million movies for the next 2 years. And then we're going to do a bunch of them as opposed to that $200 million, and gets that green light and has that power to do it. I think they might actually have something, because, you have 10 movies that only cost $10 million each, but one of them does 150 to 200 million in the box office. Boom, you're good. You're good to go.
I was just going to say, that's how the smaller studios are doing it now. That's their formula. A24 or Blumhouse did Halloween in 2018. And they spent nothing on it almost. And they made, it was like probably since the original one, the most, the biggest box office ticket for a Halloween film in years. And obviously, it's still the same thing: Halloween sequel, again, legacy, nostalgia, all that stuff. But it's still the same point, like you said, taking that tactic of using a smaller budget to make something bigger, but allowing for more creative freedom and taking in it. And now you can take a chance, take a risk, and not like, oh, I'm gonna lose all the money. Taking a risk on Red One, spending $200 million on a movie about Action Jackson Santa Claus, that was gonna fail. Like, tell me what exec thought that that's a good idea. Kids these days stop believing in Santa Claus. They're 5 years old.
Yeah, that's so funny. Action Jackson Santa Claus. Who thought this would be a good thing?
They were going to do a whole franchise, bro. I bet. I don't know if this is true, but I can imagine if that had been successful, the next thing we were going to have is Pink 2, the Easter Bunny.
Oh God, it's a freaking basically a Hollywood, a holiday verse. It's MLK and Malcolm X, Martin and Malcolm back to back. This time I'm serious.
This time it's serious. They got several horror films about pilgrims and Thanksgiving and all that stuff. So, Thanksgiving has been already turned into franchise and all that stuff. Now they got to do Super Santa, Super Easter Bunny, and all the different the fantasy world of that era. So we'll have a whole new cinematic universe. That's what it's called. Not franchise anymore. Cinematic universe.
Damn it, Marvel ruined it for everybody. Well, either way,
let's set that stage.
Yeah, I blame them for this. I totally do. But yeah, everybody, thanks for listening. Us rant on these random lists in Hollywood. You know how it is usually. But yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon, and we'll see you later. Peace.
Peace.